Thank you. So what we wanted to talk about a little bit today was disaster recovery solutions, in particular for small and mid-sized businesses. Going over a little bit the different reasons why you would want to implement these types of solutions, why it's important for you, the things you need to consider when you're looking at these technologies, and then we'll cover a little bit of the technologies out there that you can get, the pros and cons of the different technologies. Oops. I can't run PowerPoint, but I can design disaster recovery for you. So a little bit about Lumenate. We are a storage and business continuity focused company. From a storage perspective, that just means anything from putting your data out there, how you store it, how you access it. We come in and design those solutions, make sure that they're reliable, that they're highly available, and they don't go down. Business continuity, disaster recovery. Technically, those are slightly different terms, but for the most part, you can use those interchangeably. What it has to do with is if I had a significant event, a negative event, how would I recover? And there's two things we'll be speaking about in particular. That's recovery point objectives and recovery time objectives. Recovery point objective says, how much data am I willing to lose? So if you know I want to back up every night, I'm going to lose at least 24 hours worth of data, right? Because the way Murphy's law works, it's going to fail 24 hours after you did your last backup. Also, virtualization. Virtualization as a concept, what we're looking at there is you're separating your applications or your services, so your accounting packages, your email packages, from the physical hardware underneath that. What that allows you to do is once you've abstracted it, you've compartmentalized it, I can physically take it, I can move it, I can do a lot of things with it. So it's a technology that not only saves you on the cost of additional servers, the cost of electricity, those types of things, but it also can be implemented into a disaster recovery solution. So that's kind of what Lumenate does as a focus. Offices pretty much throughout Texas as well as Oklahoma City and Austin, or in Atlanta. And then a one-to-one ratio from sales to technical. And the reason why that's up there, a lot of organizations like ours, if you talk to them, they have a very large sales department, a very small back-end technical department. We're kind of the other way around. So we're a technology-focused company where we have a lot of technical people out there physically implementing these solutions. And I probably should mention that's what I do. I'm not on the sales team, I'm on the technical team. So why is disaster recovery important? This is a statistic that we got from IBM that 80% of the companies without well-conceived data protection strategies go out of business within 2 years of a major disaster. And why I like this quote so much is because it says without a well-conceived data protection strategy. A lot of people have a strategy, they have some sort of plan, but if it's not well conceived, it doesn't do you a lot of good. The other reason why these things are important is that the downtime and outages, they're costly. You will lose revenue due to these, whether it's your accounting package that's been lost and now you can't do your billing, whether it's any kind of fees if you're a regulated industry where you have to retain certain types of data or provide data in a certain time plan or time frame. If you can't do that, then you'll lose revenue. Missed opportunities, so if you're working on proposals or RFP responses, you have a significant outage, you can't recover quickly enough, then perhaps you can't bid on those projects and you'll lose revenue. The other one is negative impact on reputation and goodwill, and I think that's a very legitimate cost when you think about small and mid-sized businesses in particular. Out there, you're working, you're trying to establish yourself in that market space. And if you have to go back to those customers and say, well, I can't meet this, I can't do that for you, I'll need to rebill you because I've had this disaster and I've lost all those things, that may affect their view of you. They may think, well, do I really want to work with these people since they don't seem like they have their things together? They're not able to recover. Now, it depends on the size of the event, right? If you have a hurricane, people may be a little bit more lenient, but if it's something that was specific to you, they're going to wonder, hey, why weren't you taking care of this? For example, if you're a CPA, I've got all your accounting information and I lose it, I don't know about you, but I'd be looking for another CPA. So kind of some of the reasons why that's important. So what are the risks and exposure? The two most common by far are hardware failure and human error. So hardware failure, typically that just means you've got servers, it's got your data out there, and for whatever reason a piece of hardware fails. Particularly you're looking at a disk drive may fail, and then you don't have access to that data. It's physically gone. May also be your backup environment. So let's say you had some sort of logical corruption. You accidentally deleted something in your accounting system, deleted something in your email environment, and then you need to recover it, but you didn't get good backups, then you can't recover. Human error is the second most common, and that's, again, you made some sort of change, you deleted something, you spilled coffee on your server or on your laptop, and you lost that data. For small, mid-sized businesses, we see a lot of theft, and that's not just laptops. I know I've had my laptop stolen, a lot of people have, but even beyond the laptop, we've had customers where people just come, kick in the door, break in the glass, and physically just steal all the servers out of the environment. And that's pretty significant to have that happen when you come in on a Monday and everything's just gone. And the last one's physical disasters, and this one to me is one that gets overplayed a little bit. I've seen people talk about disaster recovery and they want to talk about events like 9/11. And to me, that's not something that you should be planning for so much as planning for the things that are more likely to occur. For example, an air conditioning unit that may spring a leak and dump water within that room and knock out your servers, or a plumbing problem, fires, things that are a lot more common than them singling you out and I'm going to take these guys out and really hurt the American economy. That's probably not very realistic. But those natural and man-made disasters do occur, tornadoes, things like that, and when that happens, you do need to be able to recover. So what should you do? One of the first things we talk to people about is you need to understand where your data resides. I can't tell you how often we go out to talk to people and they want to have a backup solution, but if you start asking them where does that data physically reside, they don't know for sure. They've got a server here, they have a server here, some of it's stored on desktops, some of it's stored on laptops. You really need to make sure you know where all that data is if you're going to protect it. If you don't have an idea what you're trying to protect, there's not a whole lot I can do for you. Perform regular backups, ensure they are successful. And it would seem obvious that you need to make sure that they're successful, but one of the challenges with backup solutions out there is if you try and back up a fairly decent sized environment, or even small environments, it's likely that you will get errors. You'll get errors where maybe a client couldn't be connected to, maybe the file had to be skipped. So what we see is people get used to seeing those errors, so every night when they go to check the backup, it has an error. But it had an error last night. It has an error every time I check it. So I'm not going to pay any attention to what this error actually is telling me. Well, then you come to find out, well, it's not really a skipped file. It's basically that your backup has failed consistently every night. So then you go to recover, and you don't have any data there. Another one that we can't stress enough is performing test restores. So even if your backup software comes up and says, hey, you got a good backup here, that's not necessarily true. That means I got it over to the tape and I think everything's good. But unless you go in there, pull it up, and actually try to do a restore, you can't be sure that that data is good, right? So in an ideal scenario, you would do full system restores, but that's time consuming. You may need additional hardware. At a minimum, what you should have as a part of your general maintenance plan is that once a week, once a month, whatever, I'm going to restore some files and just verify that I can put the tape in here, I understand the process, and I can recover some data. And then the last point is to keep your critical data off-site. So we see a lot of places where, I run my backups and getting good backups, and I take them and I sit them right here next to my server, and they're right there in case I need them. And that sounds good until that whole room gets wiped out, and now you don't have your backup tapes, and you don't have your production environment, and that's pretty common. Sometimes with the theft too, those tapes are fairly valuable and they're easy to sell. They'll just grab the tapes as well. So you don't have to just make a copy and physically carry it off-site. There are things like replication that will automate that process. But one way or another, you do need to get that data at least at a second location so that if something happens there, you have a way to recover. And that goes for any of the data that you have out there. If you know I've got critical information on laptops and I back it up every night at my house and there it is on my USB drive, that's probably not the best solution. Take the USB drive to work. Just flip-flop the locations is good enough, and it's certainly better than having it all sitting in one place. So the different technology options, I've mentioned tape a couple of different times, and the reason is tape is still by far the most common method for doing a backup. And the reasons are, one, it's cost effective, right? Tape just doesn't cost that much. Now it can, depending on what you buy, but compared to the other technologies, it's very cost effective. Tape is also very portable, right? I can make a backup to a tape, stick it in my back pocket and take it home. I can take that tape virtually anywhere and I can do some type of restore. So it's a very effective way to get there. The other thing that's nice about tape is that when you're doing backups and you want to recover, you don't want to just have last night's backup. You want to have some sort of series of backups. So maybe that's 10 nights or 10 daily backups, and then 4 copies of weekly backups, and then several monthly copies. And the reason why you want to do that is corruption. So in a lot of cases what happens is you may have a system out there, something, a logical corruption, just an error in the software itself, or a human error where you go out and you delete something, you remove something that you shouldn't have. You won't necessarily know that day one. It may be at the end of the month when you run your general reports, at the end of a quarter, but it may be somewhere in the future when you finally figure out, hey, I've got this problem. If all I have is last night's backup, I can't solve that, right? I don't have a copy. I have to go try and manually fix it. So tape is very effective if I want to keep 20, 30 copies of my data. Disk is another technology that people want to use quite a bit, and the reason is when you're backing up to tape environments, tapes have issues sometimes.